Of the 1.2 billion Indians, only 26 million pay income taxes. A large number of Indians avoid paying income tax and hoard vast amounts of black money is the perception. But wait, a large majority of Indians are legally exempt from paying income tax anyways. Why do I say this? India's per capita GDP is about 1 lakh rupees. That is, the average Indian earns about a lakh of rupees every year. India's income tax exemption threshold is 2.5 lakh rupees, which means anyone earning less than 2.5 lakh rupees does not need to pay income taxes. This income tax exemption ratio of 2.5 times the average annual income of an Indian is one of the highest in the world. For example, in China, the average Chinese earns 50,000 yuan, but anyone earning more than 18,000 yuan will have to pay income taxes in China. China's ratio is 0.4. America's ratio is 0.2, Japan's ratio is 0.5, Brazil 0.8, Argentina 0.9. On average, most countries in the world have an income tax exemption threshold that is half their per capita GDP. India's ratio is 5 times larger at 2.5 times. What does all this mean? When an average Indian earns 1 lakh rupees and the income tax exemption threshold is 2.5 lakhs, it is natural that a large number of Indians will be outside the income tax exemption threshold. On New Year's Eve last year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi remarked, "Only 24 lakh people reported an income greater than 10 lakh rupees. Can you believe that?" he said. Let's analyze this. 10 lakh rupees is 10 times the annual average income of an Indian. There are 677 million people in the age group of 20 to 70 in India. 24 lakh or 2.4 million people out of 677 means 0.36% of Indian adults reported an income greater than 10 times the per capita GDP of India. Is this abysmally low? In the US, for example, only 0.9% of all Americans reported an income greater than 10 times their per capita GDP. In the UK, 0.42% of all adults reported an income greater than 10 times. In Canada, 0.39%. So in this context, India's 0.36% does not seem as abnormal as it is made out to be. All this does not mean that there is no tax evasion in India. Neither is it a recommendation to increase tax rates. It is merely to point out that given the large majority of poor people in India and the very high income tax exemption threshold, perhaps these are reasons why less than 3% of Indians pay income taxes. Before spewing complex policy solutions such as demonetization or taxing agriculture income to widen India's taxpayer base, perhaps there's something simpler: lowering income tax exemption threshold to bring India more in line with the rest of the world and widen India's taxpayer base.